Close the door. Just close the door. And you.
Hello, everyone. Well, we're just letting everyone into the room. Wonderful to have you all here, and thank you for joining us where we are in the world. It's always interesting. Look, at the end of the day, as investors, we've had a tough 12 months in terms of where we've come from, what's been happening, and where we're going. And I think tonight, or wherever you are, whatever time zone you are in the world, we wanted to really address the investors and the community. We want to acknowledge, where we're at. We wanted to acknowledge what's happened in the last 12 to 18 months. And most importantly, we wanted to tell you where your investments are at and where we're going in terms of the future. So that's the perspective in terms of where and what we are looking to achieve tonight in terms of this process. What I wanted to take you through is just the agenda. And before I get going, just to introduce quickly two of my colleagues that are joining me. So I've got Alex. Many of you know Alex. We've worked together now, and he's been part of the equation for more than 4 years. And so Alex, welcome. Wonderful to have you online.
Thanks, Scott. It's a pleasure to share a screen with many of our investors. I see many of you online, and it's a pleasure being here.
Excellent. And then Paulo Branco coming and actually assisting in terms of all the financial structuring, compliance. So we're going to, Paulo, wonderful to have you online and to hear more from you tonight in terms of the process. I think you muted if you were talking.
Good evening, everybody.
Awesome. And then finally, Kim Ganotta is not able to join us this evening. She would have normally been joining us, but unfortunately is ill at the moment. So I'll be answering a couple of her questions in terms of that process. Let's go through the agenda and what we're looking at. So what do we want to start off with is addressing the concerns and an acknowledgement. The second thing is an introduction of our new custodian and deal team. The third is improved communication strategies. The fourth is improved distribution, processing, turnaround times. At the end of the day, we're all here to get money, and we want money in our bank accounts. The fifth one is the vision over the next 2 months. So I'm literally talking November and December. And then finally, the FAQs. Alex and I have been dealing with a lot of investors, and many of our partners and colleagues have, and we kind of want to run through the top 10 questions that people keep asking us so that we can deal with it. So without further ado, I want to get started. I want to be very clear, though, on what this is not. So this is not a shareholder event. This has been put together for our investors who've invested in deals on the Wealth Migrate platform. For the shareholders, we are intending to have a shareholder meeting. We had a shareholder, a board and shareholder reps, etc. update last week, Tuesday. We agreed to do a shareholder meeting before the end of the year. So we'll be doing a full update. We are looking to do it towards the end of November, early December. We will be sending out communication with regards to the specifics of that. But for tonight, we are 100% dealing with deals. We're dealing with investing in deals. We're dealing with communication and distributions with regards to deals. So let's just be very clear on the purpose of this webinar. Before I get going, the last thing as well, we're not providing financial advice. Tonight is purely an update of where we've come from, where we are, and where we're going in terms of the different deals for us as investors. So let me start with addressing the concerns and an acknowledgement in terms of what we're looking at. And if I go to this, I really want to kind of talk through just in terms of the last 12 months. I'm an investor, and I've been investing for a long time now. In fact, I've been investing since 1999. So what is that, 24 years? And there's two things that any investor wants. They want communication, and they want to get their money. It's that simple. And if they're not getting their money, they want to find out why they're not getting their money. And so, one of the things that, Alex, I'd like to just talk to you. You were one of the drivers behind making this event a reality. You spoke to our 3 core values and why this was so important to you from a communication and getting the dividend side. And the acknowledgement from our side is that it just has not been up to standard over the last 12 months. It's just not been good enough. I don't care which way you cut the cookie. We all hold ourselves to a very high standard. It just has not been good enough. We are going to explain what happened, why it happened, and most importantly, what we've done to fix it. But Alex, before I go there, tell us why this was important in your opinion on behalf of the investors based on our values.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And pleasure seeing everyone online again. So I think really to take a step back here, we take our investors and their investments in our platform and in our deals very seriously. And for the last 12 months, we've been unable to connect with many of you. And then over the last couple of weeks, we've really been trying to engage with our investors, but it's more been of them reaching out to us. And as we've acknowledged, our trust, transparency, and alignment, we need to improve on that. So
well, just let's talk about that. So our three core values in the company are trust, transparency, and alignment. And I'd like to believe that we want to live those values more than just have them as a poster on the wall. And that's what, so go back to what you were talking about in terms of those values.
So, where I'm going with this is really, we want to reignite our community. We want to engage with you. We want to have conversations, and we really want to answer your concerns and your questions. So this was really the first step in achieving that. It's almost like this is the first webinar of many going forward that we're going to engage with you, and we really invite you to engage with us. We acknowledge that previously our communication has not lived up to our core values, as we've acknowledged that. But going forward, we really want to do a quick pivot basically and improve on that. So that's one of the reasons why, Scott.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, just, you know, I can't say more sincerely, you know, from my side, an acknowledgement of that it's just not good enough. And many of you have heard me say it in WhatsApp messages, videos, you know, voice notes, where I've just gone, look, it's just not at the standard it has to be at. And so when one is at that stage, there's only really two options you can do. You can either fix it or you can blame other people. And we have no intention of blaming other people. We're acknowledging that, you know, it was time to fix it. So let's just take you on a chronology of the last sort of 12 to 18 months, because I think it's important just to understand. So the first one, back in June last year, I stepped down as the CEO. I agreed with the board that it would be very important for me to focus on demand. So, and with Alex and some of our fellow colleagues like Lee, etc., we focused on the demand side and specifically on strategic partnerships, licenses, etc. There was a new CEO put in place and the current chairman in terms of that place. And where Alex and I were, you know, beforehand involved with funding the business as well, growing the business in terms of that process, we didn't focus on that at all. We purely focused on the demand, the strategic partnerships, and the licenses. And what was interesting is that we got to November and the board came out with a big challenge. I actually got into a lot of trouble with regards to the strategic partnerships and the licenses and accounting, in their eyes, accounting irregularities. It was very unusual to me because all of our financials had been audited through, you know, external accountants. Plus, I had taken this, you know, through all the shareholder meetings, through all the board meetings for the best part of the last 4 years. Almost in parallel with that, the business ran out of funding in terms of the cash flow. So that was the end of November last year. And the recommendation, you know, of the board and a number of the shareholders was to actually close the business. The team in November was not paid, November nor December. And so it was a very tumultuous time within the business. And, you know, myself and my fellow co-founder, Jaco Moritz, put our hand up and we said, well, hang on, guys. There's a vision here. There's a purpose. There's hundreds and thousands of people that are really interested in what we're doing. And more importantly, there's the investors to look after, you and me, who have our investments in deals. And so we put up our hands and we said, we want to, you know, present to the shareholders an alternative plan to closing down in January, which we did. And we got an overwhelming majority, 85% of people voted mandate, put me back in control as the CEO in terms of that process. And it's been a very tough, you know, whatever it is, 11 months now in terms of that overall process. One of the things that had to happen is there was a custodian in place at the time, and, you know, he was looking after the current deals. And there was very, very clear communication that we were not allowed to speak to any investors with anything with regards to deals, and we were not allowed to speak to any sponsors. And I think one of the things that was, you know, really tough for us was that we were effectively a middleman trying to get the communication from the source, from the custodian, and ultimately investors were getting very frustrated because they were not getting the information. With regards to Wealth University, you know, we really drove that, and that ideally was how we generated revenue in terms of 2023. But the dream was always to make sure that Wealth Migrate was live with deals so that people can not only learn, but they can actually invest in terms of that process. We brought on a new team member early this year in Kim Ganoda. She came on in a COO role, very much focusing on the operations. And she really started to make measurable progress in terms of understanding what was happening with our operations and to systemize our systems in terms of that process. Then Paolo Branco joined us, and you're going to meet Paolo now in terms of that process. And he comes from a financial background, and he really started looking at it. And one of the challenges we had was that we really wanted to get new deals on the platform. And the only way to get new deals on the platform was we had to change our compliance, we had to update our key individual. And so we've looked at various different methodologies out of South Africa, out of England, out of Europe. And every time we went down a road, there seemed to be another roadblock. And the bottom line is we wanted to be able to do deals in a compliant way, making sure that the business was in a stable position and we could deliver in terms of it. And what was really interesting is that Paolo and Kim and other team members worked with the current custodian. They were looking at getting contracts and relationships in place. And ultimately what happened was that custodian decided that he didn't want to proceed and actually resigned. I don't know, plus minus a month ago, I think that was the process. In parallel to what was actually happening, and I just want to share my screen here quickly with you. So what was happening in parallel was obviously we were looking at numerous other solutions in terms of, because what's really important for us is that we wanted to ensure that we're not only a compliant business, but we've also got a scalable global solution. And one of the things that's really important is both English and European compliance. We've been trying to get FCA English compliance for more than 2 years. It's been the mandate of the board for more than 2 years. And it's without further ado, Paolo, that I wanted to hand over to you, because this is where, for me, the past 12 to 18 months have been very, very difficult for investors. But there is light on the horizon, and that's with your new introduction in terms of, and I'd love you to speak through, who is our new custodian, what is the deal team, and specifically, I'll stop sharing now, but people are asking us, what is the legal license that we're operating under, who is Aventa Capital Partners, and what is the deal team? So yeah, over to you, Paolo.
Hi there, thanks, Scott. So I've spent the last 3 months or so looking over the process, looking at how the inner workings of Wealth Migrate, trying to look at where all the problems exist. And Scott said that, as Scott said, looking at setting up a broader reach in terms of custodianship. I've known Michael Carrick of Aventa for approximately the last 5 years. I've also worked with Michael. Michael set up Aventa Capital Partners back in 2011 as a regulated financial services company under the FCA as an investment manager.
Just to be clear, sorry, Paolo, to butt in, but the FCA is the English regulatory authority, basically.
Correct. Yeah. Michael set up Aventa basically to promote and control investor capital into a range of investor opportunity. Michael brings with him a team of core staff, each with at least 20 years experience. He was formerly the global head of Merrill Lynch Infrastructure with senior roles in ABN AMRO, Commonwealth Bank, Ernst & Young, and the Australian Commonwealth Government.
So tell me just a couple of questions here, Paolo, that I think are important. Firstly, let's not underestimate your background, in terms of coming from a financial background, not only how you met Michael, but also the fact that you've worked for SMEs or with SMEs, with listed companies. Tell us just a little bit about your background, because I think it's equally as important.
Predominantly been in the accounting and advisory roles in various companies over the last 30 years. And really from just about every industry, startups that have grown to big and listed companies, other SMEs and advisory roles to some listed companies.
And tell us, in terms of your relationship with Michael and Aventa, they're a big company. It's one of those things where we're always looking for partners that are bigger than an individual. And as I understand it from Aventa's perspective, not only are they doing business around the world, I'd love you to talk a little bit to that, but also what is the value of deals that they've done, or, I don't know exactly the language that you would use, but tell us a little bit more about Aventa.
Look, I can't speak exactly for the deals that Michael and Aventa have been involved in, but the smallest deal that I've worked with Michael on is $12 million. I know that they've got well over $2 billion deals going around. They work a lot. They are currently working significantly with a lot of infrastructure projects throughout Africa, and if I'm not mistaken, in Asia. But we can get the opportunity to present Michael in February when we do do the next meeting like this.
Brilliant. Okay. Tell me, so just to be clear then, the legal license that we're operating under is effectively Michael's license in the UK under FCA, which is also
Correct.
important for us from a 11-way perspective because they're European compliant, and one of the things they wanted was European compliance. So it's something that Paolo and Kim have been working on actively with Lemonway to ensure that we, within the global regulatory regime, are in the right place, which is very important. Tell me one last question, Paolo, that I think is important before we pivot to the next section is a bit about the deal team. You know, at the end of the day, investing is about safety, and people want to know that there's a level of due diligence, etc. So just tell us a little bit about your thoughts in terms of the deal team going forward and how you and Michael plan to work together.
Well, we're going to bring a lot of the working that was done by the previous custodian in-house so that it is more available to everybody. We're more able to communicate with investors and shareholders. But at the same time, we've got Michael's oversight. So everything that gets done is approved by a vendor, gets reviewed and approved by a vendor.
So in simple terms, the way I understand it is that one of the problems when you've got outsourced stuff, you can't really control communication, you can't really control delivery of times, etc. By bringing stuff in-house, but working with a partner like a vendor, we can have more control, and that's where we ultimately are saying, right, we got accountability here, and it's actually a great pivot into the next slide, because one of the things that I know certainly from the investors I've spoken to, some of them my best friends, some of them my relationships, even my brother and my mother, and they sort of go, Scott, the communication's just not been good enough, and I just acknowledge it and I go 100%. So one of the things that's very important going forward, and it's a battle that I've finally lost after 10 years, and I say that with a smile on my face, because I'm a community-based person. I love WhatsApp. I love being able to chat on WhatsApp groups, and I know that people like Lee and myself have been trying to field questions all over the place on WhatsApp. But Kim's come in with a very operational mindset, and she's like, if we want to scale and if we want to deliver a great service to people, then we have to evolve, to email, we have to evolve to a ticketing system, because what happens within a ticketing system is that when communication is sent, someone immediately can get a reply with a ticket number. It's all automated and run properly. And our best intention is to respond within 24 hours. We can make sure the right person's been responded to. Whereas on WhatsApp, it's very ad hoc. It's messy. There's no way to control it. So for us, there's two things that are really important here. The first one is accuracy of information. If Alex or I send a question and we just answer it quickly, it might not be 100% accurate. Whereas if you use a ticketing system, the accuracy of the information is much better. And secondly, internally, we can hold ourselves to account. If Alex has sent a WhatsApp, I'm sorry, I'm picking on you, but there's no way for us to hold an account as to whether Alex responded or not, or anyone else for that matter. It's not about Alex, any other team member. Whereas if it's in a ticketing system, it can be, and we can actually hold ourselves to account and ensure that communication is far, far better than it has been over the last 12 months in terms of the process. So the real request here is, please don't, you can still WhatsApp people if you want, but the bottom line is if you want information, the right methodology is invest@wealthmigrate.com. And, you can email the different individuals, etc. if you want, but ultimately it's going to come back to source. It's going to be invest@wealthmigrate.com. And then it'll be distributed to the right people. We'll get the right answers and we'll, get it. Again, we are a small team. We do ask for sort of 24 hours plus minus and take into account time zones and, realistic in terms of the process. But the communication and the acknowledgement of what's happened in the last 12 months has been really, really not up to standard. And we seriously want to take that to the next level.
Yes.
Is there something you want to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I just want to just quickly add to where you're hinting towards. We really want to service our investors in an efficient and almost want to call it an efficient and productive way. And the way that we've set up the ticketing system is really going to achieve that. So, I mean, if we look back, it's been horrendous. But looking forward, I have every fiber in my body is screaming that we're going to be much better, because we've put the rails in place to make sure that we never get to a reality where we're even close to that. And this is all to thank to the new team, i.e. Kim and Paolo. Kim's been great at this, and she spent hours and hours and hours making sure that all the emails direct to the right correct states, the right systems, and the right procedures. So I'm actually very excited to see that work.
Look, she is German by background, so she's got all of us dancing in step and making sure the systems are working properly. So the next one, Paolo, and I think this one's probably relevant back to you. You know, one of the big complaints with people is, oh, but I heard the money's been paid by the sponsor and it's not in my wallet and I can't get access to it. And, you know, and one of the things that we put on the agenda here is improved distribution around processing turnaround times. And I'm going to stop sharing so people can see you better, but, you know, talk to us a little bit about your vision for how you see this working going forward.
Look, in short, if the funds arrive at Lemonway, we undertake to distribute within 7 days. That is the crux of it.
And I think that's, you know, well, obviously it's a hell of a lot better than it's been for a long time now. And that's the aim. You know, at the end of the day, we want investors to get paid. We want money to be in investor wallets, because ultimately that lives up to our values of trust. So, you know, and if there's not, I think, Paolo, the other part to that is if for some reason there's a delay, it's to really try and communicate as best as we can to keep people updated so that they've got the transparency. Because things do happen sometimes, you know, it's not always, you know, you are dealing with international banking, international money movement, but the bottom line is it's to have that transparency in terms of it. So
within Lemonway, we will have those funds transferred to all our investors within 7 days.
Yeah, that's exciting. So the next thing for me is the vision for the next 2 months. Now, Kim, unfortunately, as I said, couldn't join us tonight. And one of the things that she committed to in the communication, both to investors and to shareholders, was that her and Paolo and the rest of the team were doing a full report on each deal. Now, you need to understand that to date, there hasn't been a handover from the previous custodian. And so there's been a huge amount of trying to gather information, trying to deal with each sponsor to understand exactly what's happening. And what they again, I know, like, this is my negative, but I always like to rush things and make things happen. And what Kim is and Paolo specifically really want to do is cross the T's and dot the I's, and rather take a bit longer, but get the right information out than to rush based on sort of not accurate necessarily information that they've been provided. So the commitment by the end of December is the end of Q4, end of December, is to make sure that there's a full report on each deal. There's 16 deals currently live on the Wealth Migrate platform. The question I'm asking, or the request I've got for people, is please just have a bit of patience. I'm sure that you can appreciate that there's a lot to take on. They are trying to organize a handover, but in the absence of that handover, and at the end of the day, if they send out information, they want to know it's accurate in terms of that process. Paolo, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add to that. I know it's a very important part for you, for what you're dealing with Kim and with Michael Carrick, to ensure that the information you've got on the current deals is accurate and a base to then build upon.
Correct. Look, one thing that we can reiterate is that we are trying to do an absolutely thorough job of all the deals at the moment to make sure that when we do issue that report within a couple of months, it will be thorough and informative.
Yeah. And I know that, you know, I've been part of a number of those meetings as well, reaching out directly to sponsors, dealing with the sponsors. Again, remembering we weren't able to speak to the sponsors for the last 12 months. So the point is dealing directly with sponsors, making sure that we got that transparency of information so that, you know, so for me, in terms of the investors, I've got a lot of comfort and peace of mind knowing that it's coming. I know we wanted it yesterday. I also wanted yesterday, but it's coming, and the commitment is over the next 2 months. So within November and December, at the latest by the end of the year, in terms of that. In terms of what a couple of FAQs that people have basically put through. So I just want to share my screen here. So Alex and I have been through this, and we've sort of thought to ourselves, right, there's, you know, 10 probably FAQs that come up. So one of the things that's come up in the audit that Paolo and Kim and the team have been going through is the special purpose vehicles. Now, whether that's LLPs in England or LLCs in America, or even, you know, to some extent SPVs out of Mauritius, depending on different structures that got set up through the years, they've been doing an audit on exactly where those SPVs are and making sure that they're up to date. They have, some of them have been, the filings, etc., haven't been done on time. and they literally are dealing with the right authorities and the people that they need to be able to get all of that stuff sorted. Again, our number one intent is to make sure that investors are looked after, to make sure that their investments are looked after. And, you know, I think one of the things that Kim actually started with right from the beginning was a full audit on what are the SPVs, what's in good standing, what's not in good standing, what do we got to do to fix it? And it's a work in progress that Paolo, Kim, and the team are working through. Again, Paolo, I'm not going to ask you every time, but if there's anything I'm missing, please just jump in and let people know. But that's my understanding in terms of that. And again, it sort of ties in with a full report per deal, you know.
Yep, correct.
The next one is the escrow accounts. So particularly, and this is mainly referring to America, there was a lawyer in America called John Herbert. I've known John, and we've worked with John for more than, what is it now, 13 years. Oh, sorry, 11 years. And you know, for the last 9 or 10 years, there's been no problems. Yes, John's always been slightly slow and he hasn't been great at communication, but the point being is it's worked. And it was what the regulated path that was authorized by Lemonway and everything in between. However, in the last 6 to 9 months, pretty much this year, for some reason, things have changed completely with John, and it's just not working in terms of the money moving in a timeous way, communication, etc. So Paolo's actually been setting up new escrow accounts in America, in Europe, and in England, and effectively banking escrow accounts. I don't know, again, Paolo, if you just want to talk
Bank managed. Bank managed.
Yeah, bank managed. Yeah. So I think this is really important. I think this is a fundamental step up in terms of what we had and where we're moving to now in terms of that process. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Again, acknowledging some of the challenges we've had in the last 12 months. It's certainly, you know, a change going forward. The third thing, you know, which is important is funding of the deals which weren't activated. So a number of people have asked me, asked Alex, etc., you know, why didn't Marvilla go ahead? And in simple terms, we don't actually know all the answers. However, what I do know is that Marvilla was a development in Portugal. As I understand it, the development didn't go ahead at all. I know that the previous custodian was dealing with the developer, and at the end of last year, decided to not proceed with the deal and to refund the wallets in terms of putting all the money back into investor wallets in terms of Marvilla. The same thing happened with the medical deal. So this was the deal that was with Bruce Sanders and his partner in America. And, you know, again, my understanding of this deal was it was funded, and by the way, I invested in it. So when I say my understanding, this was literally I invested in it. However, at the end of last year, the custodian again at the time decided not to proceed and refunded everyone their money back into wallets. And I know, Alex, you just want to talk to the clarity around this, because again, you know, investors put in $100, I'm making up the number. They lost time value of money, but all the $100 went back in their wallet.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk to about that?
Yeah, so I do think it's quite important that we do acknowledge that the funds were, so just to quickly touch, I won't go into too much detail for the sake of time, but really each deal that we go into, it's ring fenced from the other deal. So what happened here was these deals never actually activated, but the funds were reversed back into each and every single client's wallets. So we haven't lost our principal, we have lost time value of money, but at least we got our money back and we can now actually deploy into other deals. So there was no money lost basically in that sense. Although that is quite sad that we did miss out, but yeah, at least we got our funds back in our wallets.
Okay, the third one is the supply accelerator solution. I know this was something that was, you know, Alex was quite passionate about. And sorry, just a quick one. I can see Trevor's just made a comment there in terms of the investors lost fees, etc. That is one of the things, Trevor, we're trying to look into at a deal specific level. I am aware of that. Again, I'm an investor, so I know I invest in both those deals personally. So I'm aware of that. And we're just trying to understand that because, as I said, some of the dots are not joining. And we just need to understand that personally,
yeah.
In terms of that process. And either way, we'll figure it out and come back with solutions in terms of that. Back to the supply accelerator solution. This is separate from the actual investor deals that people invested in. However, what is important here is that the custodian at the time deployed that money into different deals. All of those deals, the money's in those deals, it would still have to come out before people could get the money back from the supply accelerator. So again, just like the other deals, this is something where we're trying to do an audit on the supply accelerator. I know Alex you wanted to talk to this, because one of the things that's definitely dropped through the net in the last 12 months has been communication to people at the Supply Accelerator.
So I just want to acknowledge that there's been very little communication towards these investors that are part of this fund, we want to call it. And Kim, myself, and Paulo is working extensively to make sure that we have an updated list and make sure the communication is being shared with you at a timeliest manner. Taking into consideration that we are at the moment starting up the engine again. So we will work very hard at getting those funds deployed again, and then work backwards from there.
Cool. Number 4 is the quarterly deal basket. So this was deployed in Q1 of 2022. And again, the money was put into 4 different deals. So even though the money's in one of the 16 deals we already discussed, that almost needs to be dealt with. And probably this is the one that I know Paulo and Kim want the most information from the custodian in terms of a handover, because this was under the custodian's mandate in terms of where we're at. I just want to acknowledge Hans has sent a thing here, and Hans, I completely agree with you, and that's why I've already brought up the SPVs, and how they're managed. And I think, going forward, there's no longer external relationships; these are internal relationships now. We can manage this process. Completely agree with you that the special purpose vehicles have to be kept up to date. There's no excuses, no blame. They either are or they aren't. It's black or white. The flow of funds, you can't be blaming the escrow provider or anything like that. Completely agree with you. So one of the things that Kim and Paulo are doing, and obviously with other partners, is taking everything that we've had to date and taking it to a whole nother level in terms of professionalism. Because at the end of the day, it's black or white. The money's either in investors' accounts or it's not. Investments are either 100% done right, or they're not. There's no middle ground in terms of that process. So Hans, and I know you're also from Germany, so I'm sure that you're really going to appreciate Kim's German efficiency in terms of this process and everything that's happening there.
Hans, I believe that by the end of the year you'll see a very, very different situation.
Yeah. Why have distributions not been paid? And this, to some extent, is back to Hans's his comment, and I know certainly a frustration of a lot of people. There's a number of reasons that we could bring up. For the first couple of months of this year, there was an issue with a payment that needed to be made to Lemonway. The current custodian at the time didn't want to do anything until that payment was made. We finally resolved that. Then there were other issues. I've already mentioned the challenges with John Herbert's escrow account, where money was held up for 6 to 8 weeks in that escrow account, etc., etc., etc. Some of them have been in our control, some of them have been out of our control. You've already heard what happened over the last 12 months. But most importantly, none of them are excuses. And so what Kim and Paulo and the rest of the team are doing is saying, right, what is working, what's not working, and more importantly, what do we need to take to the next level to ensure that we are providing and behaving like a world-class organization of professionalism. And I think there's no finger pointing here, there's no excuses other than to say it has not been good enough by our standards or by your standards. We completely acknowledge that, and the intention is to change it. And that's why Paulo is saying, things like getting the money into Lemonway within 7 days. Once it's in the Lemonway wallet within 7 days, ensuring the distributions are in people's wallets.
Agreed.
Alex, let's talk to this one of the safety of money in Lemonway.
Yeah, so I think we've touched on a couple of things here, but I do think it's really important to ensure that our investors actually understand that we're taking this quite seriously. We want to make sure that the SPVs are up to date, the filings are correct. We want to make sure that we work with the different regimes and the different regulatory requirements to make sure that's updated. But then in terms of the flow of funds, Scott hinted towards it a little bit earlier, we do need to understand that the flow of funds is all kept within Lemonway, and that really is an important point, because at this moment in time, all our wallet balances are sitting with Lemonway. It's not withdrawn into a Wealth Migrate account, or nor do we have access to that. The way that it's worked, and this is why I love this company so much, is it's ring fenced. So each and every single deal has no exposure to the business nor to the other deals. And I do think that's an important point to mention here, is because at the moment there is a little bit of I want to call it a lack of trust. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to host this webinar and make sure that we re-engage with our investors, our shareholders, our community members, and so on and so forth. So this is really the first of many webinars we're going to host to make sure that there's trust, transparency, and alignment. So Scott, to come back to the point of the Lemon Way, I think I wanted to add this here to make sure that investors understand that it's agnostic to where the business is at this moment in time, and it's agnostic to the different SPVs because it is differently with Lemon Way.
So let's just visually look at that. So what happens basically is the investor over here sends your money into your wallet. It's your individual segregated wallet. Then it goes onto the digital marketplace. That is Wealth Migrate. Then basically you look at an investment opportunity. I don't know, let's say a building in Manhattan or an industrial building in Phoenix. And then it gets aggregated by the platform. It then, it gets put through a tax efficient vehicle, and ultimately there's a deal ownership. So that's at the SPV level, the deal ownership. When the deal pays out a dividend, it effectively gets put into a deal wallet. And then, so again, not in our wallet, we don't touch it. And then ultimately it gets distributed as per the proportional investment per investor into each investor's wallet. Paulo, I know that you wanted to make a comment on this earlier. Are you happy in terms of the clarity of this picture and just the, people understanding really two things? One is that the digital wallets are on purpose segregated from Wealth Migrate. And secondly, the SPVs are segregated, each one of them, so that if one investment works and another one doesn't, they're not combined. But are you comfortable in terms of this picture as you understand it?
It's correct, and I am.
Excellent. Okay, so what I wanted to do then is to move to the next one. And I think this is probably something we've brought up a few times. Hans, just by the way, I saw your comment. You're from Austria, not Germany, but you speak German, so apologies. I need to get a geography lesson apparently. So anyway, I appreciate that. But I'm sure that you'll still appreciate the German efficiency of Kim. She's got us all walking in step. So,
Very much so.
So number 6, Alex, why has no communication been shared with investors unless they hound us? And this is one that I think we both wanted to talk to, especially the fact that, whether it was Lee or myself or others on the WhatsApp group and the standard responsible, we're not allowed to. I've already told you why. And please email the custodian email. And then, people were complaining they weren't getting, a response. Now, again, I've sort of been into this. I'm not going to go over and over again in terms of this process. But what we've done is that communication was outsourced. And we had no control over whether it was being communicated or not. What we're doing now is we're bringing it in-house. And again, that's why the invest@wealthmigrate.com email is so important. Yeah. We've got a ticketing system in case. So again, we're acknowledging it hasn't been good enough. And that's the reason we had to make a change and bring it internal. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, Scott, I think you touched on all the important points. The only I would like to add to that, it's been extremely frustrating that we have not been able to connect with our investors. So I'm really looking forward to going forward and actually engaging with everyone and getting you results in terms of your investments. As Scott has alluded to a couple of times now, is that invest@wealthmigrate.com is really the source of truth for the way forward. So we're really going to, we've already started chatting about this at a leadership team. When are we going to meet? How are we going to address it? What is the formula that we're going to do this? So I just want to really, and I think this is the last time I'd like to talk, because I really don't think we want to talk about negativity all night long, but really acknowledging that the way that we used to do it over the last 12 months did not work, and that we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that is never reality ever again. So that's why these systems are so important. And that's why, it's been extremely frustrating, but we're pivoting and we've got systems in place to make sure that's not reality anymore.
I do just want to make one comment of acknowledgement, because I think often Lee Rush took the brunt of it, and she did a phenomenal job,
yes,
dealing with very difficult circumstances. And the one thing that I can always guarantee is Lee's heart was in the right place, always trying to get the information for investors, even though she had no control of it. Alex, this is an interesting one. We get asked this question all the time now. You've just said, no, you can't speak to anyone. It's just an email. Like where we're at, what is this? Who can I speak to now?
Don't phone me. I'm joking. No, look, I think I've built up a lot of relationships with many of you online, and I'm very excited to reignite those relationships. Even, Scott, I think, we've traveled South Africa a couple of times now. We've been on hundreds of webinars. We've spent time with many of these investors, and I think the line where it becomes personally blurry is where, you know, they're no longer just people on a balance sheet, you know, ones and zeros or names on an Excel sheet. We have personal relationship with these people, and that's been at a personal level really difficult for me over the last 12 months, because I've not been able to actually speak and add value and actually engage with you. So who can you speak to? I have, again, at a shareholder level, at an investor level, I have many relationships. So if I have a relationship with you, please, I would love to have a call, and actually just reignite that relationship. That said, obviously, taking everything into account that we've just discussed, it is going to be a process to make sure that we get all of these things well-oiled and getting the deal updates and the audits and so on and so forth. But I don't want that stopping us from reigniting, because, you know, this entire company was based on community. That's why it was created. And
yeah, well, as we say, a digital platform with a human heart. So,
and, you know, I think over the last, call it 24 months of this business, we've kind of lost our way. And the universe has forced us to go back to our founding document. And yeah, I know I'm speaking quite a lot about this, but I really feel passionate about it. So who can you speak to? You have my details, please reach out. If not, the invest at
wealthmigrate.com. So I mean, even Peter said, yeah, can we have all the team's contact details? Peter, what we don't want is where communication is going to like 6 different people, and then everyone's scrambling, and it's going to the wrong people, and you know, and it's confusing things. So that's why Kim has set up a very organized system, ticketing system. We've got different emails. If you're a shareholder, there's a separate email. You've been communicated that on the shareholder updates. It's got the ticketing system. It goes to the right people. It gets distributed. The right person's held accountable to communicate back. Sure. And so that for me it's a really important shift. And by the way, like I told you, I fought against it for 10 years. Like I'm the WhatsApp guy, but clearly you haven't been allowed to. Well, I finally realized, like, we're not going to build a professional, global, scalable company with answering WhatsApps individually all over the time. This one, Alex, why can't I withdraw my funds from Lemonway?
So a lot of investors go on to the platform and they click withdraw, and then there's then one or two things happen. Either there's an error, or it takes long for the funds to land in your bank account, or there's a delay and the funds are, you know, your bank message you and says that there's an error. And really, I think just taking a few steps back, as I alluded to earlier, is Lemonway is the custodian of the fund. So they hold all the funds. Now, when you do your KYC, your know your client verification on the platform before you're allowed to fund your wallet, there's a bank account that you have to register on the platform. And it's exceptionally important to make sure that that bank account complies with certain regulations. So, I mean, again, I won't be able to speak directly to this because it's unique to each and every single person. We do have an investor roadmap on Saturday that you're more than welcome to come and join, where we can go into the detail and to talk about that. But I just wanted to make sure that the community feels at ease, that we don't have access to the funds. We just need to make sure that your bank account that's registered on the platform is you know, dots the I's and crosses the T's, basically. So yeah, I just wanted to.
Well, I mean, there's two things that are important there. One is it's pure AML, which is out of our control. It's global money laundering, and the other one is, you know, again, Lemonway actually making sure that the money is going to the right person. And you know, sometimes, I mean, it works for the majority of people, but every now and again there's a glitch, and then a human needs to get involved in terms of that process. Dr. Maury, I recognize your question around, or sorry, I've not recognized, what's the word called? I acknowledge your question around the mastermind, and I'll reach out to you one-to-one with regards to that. The next FAQ is, why have there been no new deals for the last 18 months? Well, for the last 6 months of last year, there was very little focus. I think the last commercial real estate deal came out in June, July of last year. There was very little focus in terms of getting new deals for whatever reason, and I'm not going into those details. And then for the last 12 months, I've explained to you from a regulatory perspective, a compliance perspective, we wanted to ensure that we didn't launch a deal until we had all the operations set up and ready to go. We had the compliance set up, we had the regulation set up, and we had the right people in place. So that's really it. It's been very frustrating when people have been saying, hey, where are the new deals, etc. And there have been some really good deals coming across our table. However, we've got some really good news that we want to, you know, bring to the table just now in terms of that process. The 10th question you know, for me, and it's sort of the, you know, Einstein, and I know actually Gordon sent me a thing saying this is, you know, Einstein didn't say this anymore, so I don't know whether it's true or not. But, you know, Einstein says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Whether he said it or not, it makes a lot of sense. You know, if you keep saying you're going to do something different, but actually don't change anything, then nothing's going to change. I think there's been a fundamental shift in Wealth Migrate over the last 12 months. And I think Alex has already alluded to it. Firstly, we went back to our founding principles. You know, if you take Jaco Moritz and I, right from the very beginning, we were very clear on what we wanted to achieve and how we wanted to achieve it. We've gone back to that. We've got a very simplified leadership structure and just a way to be able to ability and make decisions. We've also gone back to driving the business through revenue. So this is really important. It's a worldwide trend, you know, moving away from the growth strategies and the fundings, which can be stop-start, to growing the business through revenue. We dramatically cut the costs, and we're just focusing on growing the business through revenue. And we're in an exciting time. And I think the last part, which is probably the most important part, and one that I often have failed at in the past, is around focus. And so what's really working for us at the moment, you've got Wealth University. We've built a lot of great products on Wealth University. People are getting a lot of value out of that. We've got a great platform on Wealth Migrate. We've got great partners around the world. We've got our digital wallet. We've got our compliance. So just focus on that. Focus on educating people on how to diversify globally, and then, you know, through the Wealth University, and then have Wealth Migrate, which is the investment platform, so that they can invest and diversify globally and earn that globally diversified passive income back into the 11-way wallets. And that's what we're going to focus on. Do we have other dreams? Sharia wealth and women in wealth and millennials in wealth and India and everything? Yes, we do. And they're not going to go away. But as Kim said to me very clearly, make sure the core is working. And for the next 12 to 18 months, just focus on the core and really getting it, you know, substantial. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Scott, I'm you know, I almost want to kind of change my tone and, you know, my body language, because I'm very excited for the next 18 months. We have so much positive movement towards, you know, deals, our new partners that we've onboarded, Kim and Paolo joining us. And, you know, I'm very much passionate about what is our founding, you know, document, our
why are we here? What's our purpose?
What we are trying to achieve exactly. And I do think with the steps that we've put in place now, from a regulatory point of view, from a wallet point of view, from the type of deals that we want to list, from the education side that we've now built up over the last 12 months, you know, I really feel comfortable to say that as a business, we've got the fundamentals to actually start moving forward in a massive way. And I'm excited to be part of that journey. And I think, again, just to touch on this, mentioned it earlier, is, you know, we have about, I don't know, a couple of hundred active community members, and a couple of thousand community members that watch our webinars and engage with us. And over the next 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, a week, I really invite you to engage with us and then have these conversations. If they're hard, if they're easy, if you want to know what we're doing and how we're going to do it, you know, let's have those conversations, and let's rebuild this community, because we're all here because we've, you know, at one point in time, we believed in diversified global assets, may it be structured notes, real estate, you know, private equity, etc., etc. The education side, there's so many things we can talk to. I mean, we can speak for hours about this, but at some point, everyone believed in what we did and what we do now. So we're just going to do more of that and less of the other stuff.
Yeah, and I never lost my belief. That's why I'm still here.
Well, so maybe I just drank too much of the Kool-Aid, Scott.
So Lorraine said, good to know that all the deals are being sorted out and we are updated. Looking forward to the updates going forward and maturing of the deals. Completely agree with you, Lorraine. And I think, again, a lot of the work that's been happening over the last couple of months, quietly, think of it like an iceberg below the water, you're going to see significant, but we don't want to talk about it. We want to show you in terms of that process. So, you know, for me, Alex has kind of alluded to it, and this is where I want to take a step change, because this for me is where we get, you know, I'm really excited. I haven't been this excited in a good couple of years, basically. And one of the reasons for it is that we've basically, for the last 12 months, been in a process of hurry up and wait. Like, you know, literally wait, because we had some great deals and we had a lot of investors and Dr. Maury just sent a message saying, hey, but I wanted to invest in deals, they weren't there, etc. And I get that completely. And that's what gets exciting for me with the next steps. And I've already alluded to it, where we've had to get a whole bunch of operational, compliance, regulatory pieces in place. But we've got some really, really exciting partners that we've been working with for years. And, and that's where the world is at the moment, is testament to what I'm about to share with you. So I've been traveling to America since 2010. I'm talking to buy property. I've been to America lots of times before that, but 2010 was when I went there to first buy property. And I bought my first property in 2012. And as you know, we've helped hundreds of people invest in houses and thousands of people invest in commercial property. Every year we went on a buyer's trip, we went to New York. So I've probably been going to New York 3 times a year on average for many, many years. And obviously we wanted to get into Manhattan. Like, we've tried to get into Manhattan, we've tried to get into New Jersey, which is just over the river. We've tried to look at all the different suburbs. We've just desperately tried to get into Manhattan, and we haven't been able to. And literally for the best part of more than a decade, we just have not been able to get in. We have not been able to find partners we could trust, and we just couldn't find decent deals. Well, I'm super excited that literally tomorrow night we are launching brand new live on the platform with an incredibly esteemed partner, a building in Lower Manhattan. In fact, if you can see my mouse, it doesn't get much better. You've literally got the financial district there, which is where the World Trade Center is and everything else. You've got, Jersey City across the river. You've got the Statue of Liberty here. I mean, this is where the action is. I mean, literally the New York Stock Exchange is down here. And if you know your way around New York, you don't get better than this part of New York in terms of the process. And that's literally the location. That's the building. It's an old church that's been converted into 54 apartments. And what's fascinating here is that the partner that we're dealing with, it's a debt deal. So what that means is that there's actually quite low risk, because you've got a first mortgage debt over the product. So you've got it. We literally are finalizing the performer and everything for the deal to go live tomorrow. But you're dealing with, I can see we're getting, the camera's playing games. It's getting lost between you and me. But you're dealing with a 10% plus income. Now, honestly, if you'd come to me 6 months ago and said, Scott, you're going to get 10% plus income per year in Manhattan, I'd laugh. I'd literally laugh you out the room. So it's a 10% plus income per year. It's a 12 to 18 month project. People have been beating down our door saying, hey guys, I want shorter term projects. Well, there you got it, 12 to 18 months. And your money is protected by a first mortgage over the existing property in terms of that process. So this is a really exciting deal for us, for people that want to be in America, that want to be in a 12 to 18 month project, want to earn a 10% plus return per annum. And, for me, one of the reasons that I highly, highly recommend that you come along to the webinar tomorrow night is we'll obviously go into a lot more detail. We're not here tonight to sell you deals. That's not the intention. We're here to show you that we're back in business. And not only are we back in business, we've got some very exciting deals on the platform in terms of where we're coming to.
And I think, just Scott, just to add to that, and it shows how confident we are that we're going forward. Because for the last 12 months, it's kind of been a stop-start process. And we are very confident in the way we're going forward. So we're going. And that's really, and I say that with a lot of excitement in me.
Yeah. Let me move to number 2. And this one's in Germany. So now, I know I sound like a broken record now, but I've been trying to get into Germany for 10 years as well. Specifically more so in the last 3 to 4 years. Because James Painter, for those of you who know, I wrote the book, Property Going Global. He wrote chapter 2 of the book, all around currency. And he's been saying for a long time, you need to get into the euro, you need to diversify. And Germany is the powerhouse of Europe. We tried to get in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. There was a 700,000 euro opportunity. We couldn't move quick enough. Someone took down that chunk within 2 weeks. We missed it. We couldn't get on the platform in time. They made a 1.8 multiple on their money within 18 months. This particular partner has done 3 deals with our family office, and they've actually had 3 successful exits. So this is an income producing deal in Germany. It's got a 6% plus cash on cash return per year. It's got a 14% IRR. It's an equity deal, so it's a 5-year investment in terms of the overall opportunity. And again, this will be launching in the next week or so on the platform. And then finally, there's a private equity deal. This is in Austin. And what's really interesting with this one is that our partner on the ground has themselves, our family office has actually invested $20 million in this deal themselves, 12 million in equity and 7 or 8 in debt is my understanding. And what you're getting here is a private equity. So you're dealing with a 9% plus cash on cash. It's a 3-year term, and it's an ability to earn income in private equity in America. Now, just by the way, these are 3 deals that are literally going live on the platform. They're not the only deals. We're dealing with people in London with some significantly exciting opportunities in London. We've got another industrial deal with partners that we've done. So there's a number of great deals that are coming in the pipeline. We literally wanted to show you 3 that are going to be live on the platform in the next week or so in terms of that process. So, Alex, this investor roadmap is something that our partner Shane created way back in June last year. It feels like a lifetime ago. And why did we create this? We created it to help investors. We created to help investors go through what are the fundamentals, how to set up on the platform, how does due diligence work, how does compliance work, the deal wallets, managing risk, how the platform works, how do you actually invest, how do you earn money, et cetera, et cetera. And I tend to refer to people, it's the why, the what, and the how. So, why do you invest? What do you invest in? And how do you invest? So we put these on hold for a year, obviously, because the Wealth Migrate platform didn't have new deals on it. We're very excited that Saturday is the first workshop. We've got another one coming up on the 24th of November. So we're doing one on a Saturday, one on a Thursday. You can literally go to the link, investorroadmapworkshop.com, and you'll get the latest information. Come along, everything that Alex has spoken about, I've spoken about, Paul has spoken about. We're going to go into a lot more detail at the workshop. And what's also interesting, Kim also made mention, and she said, and we were dealing with one of our shareholder representatives, Lee Tamman, earlier, and he said it's really important that people also know the substance of what's been built within the Wealth University. So, as an example, I wrote this book, Property Going Global, 10 years ago with Clem Sunter. We've turned this into a digital course called Wealth Going Global now, which is how you get access to the best information. We've got asset mastery, we've got the mastermind, there's a whole bunch of things. So I don't want to go into the detail tonight because tonight is about deals. It's about investing in deals. But if these things interest you, I'd highly recommend you come along to the Investor Roadmap. We'll take you through the entire process. You can see how much substance has been built within the Wealth University now to provide you with no matter what level you're at, to provide you with the knowledge and the information that you want. And then Wealth Migrate is the investment platform that you can take that knowledge and you can actually apply it and you can learn while doing it. So anyway, Investor Roadmap Workshop. We look forward to seeing you there on Saturday, particularly if you're interested in what's happening, the new deals, the team, et cetera, in terms of that process. So in conclusion, you've seen this slide 1,000 million times. Why? Because Alex talks about the founding document. Literally, Wealth Migrate was built on the principle of birds. When a bird flying on its own versus a bird flying in a flock can fly 70% further than a bird flying on its own. I personally couldn't invest in Manhattan on my own. And by the way, virtually no one else on this event could actually invest in Manhattan on their own. That particular deal is a $10 million raise. It's been already oversubscribed, and we're holding on with our fingernails for our allocation in terms of that process. And it's a good example of how on our own as individuals, we've got nowhere near the same power as we do collectively. So again, back to the philosophy of what we do and why we do it. And to finish off, money won't create success. The freedom to make it will. Nelson Mandela, it's one of the most important things that he said. It's why we do what we do. We're here to help everybody invest like the top 1%, to give you access to the top best information we can get our hands on and get access to the best partners. I want to finish with a little video.
I have walked a long walk to freedom. It has been a lonely road, and it is not over yet.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long, lonely road for all of us as investors. I say it with a smile, and I apologize to some extent because it hasn't been an easy 12 months. There's a lot of frustration. I can see Sean is saying, what about Glenn Afron? Again, Sean, that's going to be talking specifically to each deal report and where we're at. Willem saying, hey, I've got money in deals. I want to get it out so I can invest in new deals. I completely understand, Willem. So do I. That Hobbs deal, as an example, has exited, and getting exact clarity on where that is and releasing the money into the Lemonway wallets. Jay said, having likely walked past the Manhattan property numerous times, I'm sure, Jay, in terms of that process. And Judith said, great job. I think one of the things that we've tried to emulate tonight is just a sincerity around the frustration that we know investors have, an acknowledgement of that frustration. But most importantly, for me, it's to show what's changed. It's to show the work that Paolo and Kim and Alex and Lee and Cisco and many of the other team members have put in behind the scenes for the last year, because we care. We care more about investors than people truly understand. And we really do believe in our core values of trust, transparency, and alignment. And I think really from my side, Alex, to you, Paolo, to the rest of the team, what are your closing comments in terms of where we're at now, not only where we've come from, but where we're going?
Yeah, it's been, I think for all of us, I think we do need to acknowledge that it's been difficult. And, it's, I almost want to put it in the past. And for all of us, I think, if we focus on the negativity, then we're just going to stay there. So I really want to focus on positivity. How do we make sure that we, protect the principles that we've put into these deals? And then also, I think at a bigger level, I'm just grateful that we're all still here and we're all willing to actually jump on a webinar and actually engage with each other. So more of that. And Scott, thank you. It's been one hell of a whirlwind over 12 months. I won't lie. But I'm very excited to actually stand here in front of everyone. And actually, many people gave up, many people left, many people were, I think, they didn't want to risk their balance sheets. I think we've done that, and we're still here, and we really want to, push forward and make sure that we focus on the positivity between Paulo and the team, to make sure that we actually understand what's going on with the deals at a really grassroots level, and then also bring on opportunities for us to invest. And I welcome engagement, because that's the only way we're going to turn this around.
Paulo, closing comments from you. You've jumped in with both feet. At the end of the day, you put your money where your mouth is, and what I mean by money with mouth is, I mean, both your feet are here. You've taken on a tumultuous task, trying to understand everything. I deeply appreciate it. I know that it gives me peace of mind for my own investments. But yeah, your closing comments for investors.
I think, Scott, your commitment and dedication is commendable. Alex, yours too. And I look forward to helping you deliver.
Thanks, Paulo.
No, awesome. Well, listen, to all the investors, to you guys, if it wasn't for you, men and women, we wouldn't be here. We're deeply, deeply passionate about what we do, and ultimately helping, everybody to invest like the top 1%. And I think, we don't know it all. We have made mistakes. We certainly acknowledged the trials and tribulations we've been over the last 12 to 18 months. However, I will say one thing. From the bottom of my heart, I've got complete confidence that this time we're building solid foundations. We're getting the right people in place. We're building the right systems, so that as investors, we can just focus on investing with the right information and the right partners, and ultimately building what I believe is globally diversified passive income. So thank you to all of you for your time. We will be making this recording available to share with others. I think for me, just to share this last screen, just to say thank you with everyone. I always prefer seeing people's faces than PowerPoint slides. And yeah, I suppose, Alex, the last thing is that something we've been talking about a few times is, when are the next live events? How do we all get together and, get to see people again? The answer to that is that people live all over the world, and it's very, very hard, to do that. We are doing lots of live events. Come and join us at the Investor Roadmaps. Yeah. The Diversification Challenge was highly successful 2 weeks ago, et cetera, et cetera. So please, I do remind you, if you've got questions, invest@wealthmigrate.com. I can see, people have put comments in and et cetera. I'd much rather if we pivot, to making sure that those questions are being answered. We will put that link in the different WhatsApp groups. We will email it to people. We will email you the link to the Investor Roadmap workshop, plus the Diversification Challenge. Tomorrow night, same time, 8 p.m. South African time, 6 p.m. London time. Come and learn all about the Manhattan deal. Wealth Migrate is open for business. I think that's everything. I don't know if I've missed any comments. I can see there's lots of thank yous, so I appreciate all of that. Cool. And Eric, I can see you got your hand up. I don't know if you want to type, or I'm happy to reach out to you and we can answer it. So it's only set up that the three of us can talk in this webinar. So cool.
No,
Cool. Okay, now Eric, I'll reach out to you one-to-one in terms of that process.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your time. Have a wonderful evening. Paulo, Kim, and the team, thanks
Good
for
evening,
everything. Deeply appreciated.
those guys.
Cheers, man.